After 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and John with him and led them up a high mountain. There he was transfigured before them. His clothes became dazzling white, whiter than anyone in the world could make them. And there appeared before them Elijah and Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Now we come to one of those really bad chapter divisions in the Bible that separate two stories that are meant to be taken together. At the end of chapter 8, Jesus talked for the first time about his death. And if we remember that Mark is the first of the Gospels, for the very first time, Jesus mentions the word cross. Then at the beginning of chapter 9, Jesus leads them up the mountain for this amazing experience. And those two events are linked by the words, after 6 days. Now, you don't remember later if something took place 6 or 7 or 5 days after another event, unless those two events are inextricably linked in your memory, and Jesus meant them to be. He wanted them taken together because together they give two sides of a great truth. You remember that the disciples wanted glory without the cross, and Jesus showed them that that was impossible. But the other side of the story is, after the cross, there will be glory. There was for Jesus, and there will be for us. So Jesus wanted these stories together. Now the question is, where was the Mount of Transfiguration? The traditional answer is Mt Tabor, 17 miles southwest of the Sea of Galilee, just 7 miles from Nazareth. That's where they built the Church of the Transfiguration. And for centuries, Mt Tabor has been symbolic of the glory of God coming on earth. And that's why in Lesotho there is a mission station called Mt Tabor. I have a very good friend who grew up there, and it's very precious to her, and she did indeed see the glory of God come down upon that place. But I'm sorry to say, I don't think it was Mt Tabor, and I'm going to give you 3 reasons why. The first is, I just don't think it's high enough. The scripture says he took them on a high mountain. Mt Tabor is only 1,500 feet high. To put that in perspective, let's put it against a mountain that we really know, Table Mountain. Mt Tabor is not even half the height of Table Mountain. It's barely more than a hill. And 30 miles north of the Sea of Galilee is Mount Hermon. Look how that would tower above Table Mountain. It's 9,000 feet high, 3 times higher than Table Mountain, 6 times higher than Mount Tabor. And in fact, if you walk up to the top of Mount Hermon from the Sea of Galilee, which is 1,000 feet below sea level, you will climb 10,000 feet in 30 miles. That's what I call a high mountain, and because of its height, until global warming came along, it was perpetually covered in snow. So Mount Tabor is too small. The second reason is that Mount Hermon makes sense. The first of our 2 incidents, Jesus talking about his death, took place at Caesarea Philippi. Caesarea Philippi is on the slopes of Mount Hermon, so it makes complete sense that they stayed there for 6 days, and then Jesus took them up the high mountain. The third reason is that Mark says his clothes were transformed into a white that no physical phenomenon could produce. Now, the most dazzling white I've ever seen is sun shining on snow. I saw it up the Jungfrau. You had to wear sunglasses. I'm told that if you work in snow and don't wear sunglasses, you'll damage your eyes. Now, picture the scene. Jesus takes them up into the snow, and the sun is dazzling their eyes. And then Jesus is transfigured into a white that makes the snow look dull and grey. For a brief moment, they see Jesus as he really is. And so they get this wonderful sight. And they see Moses and Elijah. Why Moses and Elijah? Elijah, because the last verse of the Old Testament says, a prophet will come in the spirit of Elijah. That was John the Baptist, the greatest prophet that ever lived. And Moses, because he was the great lawgiver. You know, I've been growing my beard because I've just been in a church play and I played the part of Moses. Just look at this.
These are the laws of the Lord. If you keep them, you will find abundant, joyful life. If you break them, you will not.
Paul says, if Moses had not given the law, we would never have understood why Jesus had to die. And so these disciples see this amazing sight, and they hear a voice from heaven saying, this is my beloved Son. And they become 3 of a very small group in the whole of history that have ever heard physically the voice of God. And so they have a truly heavenly experience. And then Peter goes and spoils it all by saying something stupid. He says, let's build 3 tabernacles here. And now we get one of those delightful editorial comments by Mark, typical of the Gospels, which shows the disciples in a very poor light. And it makes the Gospels very authentic. He says, Peter said this because he was afraid and he didn't know what to say. That's Peter's default reaction. When in doubt, talk. That got him into a lot of trouble, and it was many years before he got on top of that bad character trait. When we were young, we had a little saying that we used when we thought someone was talking rubbish. It was rather sarcastic and rude. It was, if I've got nothing to say, I keep my mouth shut. But actually, Peter needed that message. We all need that message. Perhaps we can put it in more exalted language from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 5. Do not be quick with your mouth. Do not be hasty in your heart to utter anything before God. God is in heaven. You are on earth. So let your words be few.